In this video tutorial, we will cover how to load data into the Tetrad GUI. The first step in loading any dataset into Tetrad is to create a data box. When we first open it, it contains an empty dataset. To select our data file, we click File, Load Data. Tetrad accepts data files in either TXT or CSV formats. In this tutorial, we'll load several different types of files, but to start with, we'll load this tabular dataset of continuous data. Before we can load our dataset, we have to tell Tetrad how it is formatted. This is tabular data, it's continuous, it's tab delimited. There are variable names in the first row. There are no case IDs, comments, quotes, or missing values, so we don't need to worry about these advanced settings for now. Now that Tetrad knows how our data file should be formatted, we click Validate so that the program can check that everything is where it should be. We're in the clear. Now we click Load, and we have our dataset loaded. If we close the box and reopen it, our data will still be here. This dataset can now be input into other boxes in Tetrad. Now let's load this comma-delimited discrete dataset. Note that there are no variable names, and we have several missing values. This is still tabular data. It's discrete. It's comma delimited, so we have to select comma from the list of possible delimiters. Tetrad can accept data delimited with commas, colons, tabs, spaces, semicolons, pipe characters, or white space. We don't have variable names in our file. Because some of our variable values include commas, we're using quotes as escape characters. We have several missing values, but we don't use a character to mark them, so we'll select Other and leave the box empty. Now we validate, and it looks like we're good to go. You can see that in the loaded dataset, Tetrad has given our variables names. We also still have our missing values, which Tetrad marks with an asterisk. Now we're going to try loading several datasets at once. Tetrad allows you to load multiple data files at the same time, as long as those files are all formatted in the same way. In this case, we're going to load 3 tab-delimited, mixed, discrete, continuous datasets. We select all the files that we want to load. All 3 of our files are tabular and tab-delimited with variable names. They're also mixed. The number we enter here tells Tetrad which columns to treat as discrete and which to treat as continuous. If I enter 5, then columns with 5 or fewer distinct values will be treated as discrete, and columns with more than 5 values will be treated as continuous. This window lists all the files that we're loading. If we discover that we've accidentally selected a file we don't want, we can remove it from the list by right-clicking. If you're using a Mac, you'll have to two-finger click, not control-click. And if we realize that there's a file missing that we did want to load, we click here and select it from the file browser. Now we validate, and each data file gets its own validation screen. Looks like all of them passed. Here we've got our discrete variables and our continuous ones. All of the datasets we loaded are in this box, and we can visit each one by clicking on these tabs here. Finally, we're going to load a covariance dataset. Covariance data loaded into Tetrad should be lower triangular only, and it must have the sample size listed in the first line. Unlike tabular data, it also must have variable names. If our covariance data doesn't follow these formatting rules, it won't pass validation. When we select covariance data, we lose some options that we had for tabular data. Obviously, our data has to be continuous, there are no case IDs, and we have to have variable names. And it looks like we've successfully formatted our covariance data. Now we can use this covariance dataset for search and estimation. Thank you for watching this Tetrad video tutorial.